6:01. And I ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mark DePace,
Here.
Amanda Grubler,
Here.
Kirsten Gustafson, Willette Jones,
Here.
Calvin Lewis,
Here.
Matthew Macker,
Here.
Lakia Walker.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, presentations. Student representative, report of.
Good evening. So first off, there's some things with the senior class. We've collected all of our seniors' information, including our photos and our quotes. So our yearbook club is in full swing, which is great. The class of 2025 is also selling bundt cakes as a fundraiser to help get prom tickets down, and also our senior dues for our trip and different things like that. The Hudson Music Department is also selling Cinnabuns across the district. So yeah. This Thursday, our environmental club is going to a citizen climate lobby. I don't know exactly where it is, but yeah, the environmental club will be going to that. Today and the 21st are the auditions for our school musical, Annie. So if anyone wants to audition, please do. This Saturday is the volleyball tournament hosted by the Varsity Club and National Honor Society. There's sign-ups online. There's community divisions you can play in. There's 3 levels of play, I know, to non-competitive and then a competitive. The student council this Thursday at our meeting will be working with Hudson's mayor on the comprehensive plan. So he's going to come in and speak to us and ask us some questions and ask for input. And then, also winter sports have begun their tryouts. So boys volleyball, girls and boys basketball, and I think bowling have all begun. I think. Swimming and cheerleading as well. Sorry. Moving into December before the next board meeting, I think. On the 10th, on the next board meeting, the 10th, there's going to be a blood drive hosted by Varsity Club throughout the school day, ran by Varsity Club members and help supported by them. And then the day before that, on December 9th, Model UN will be hosting a mini Model UN just for students within the district and within the high school, which is a lot of fun. And I think the final thing is, next Monday, our mock trial team will be hosting its first practice case, which we're very excited about. So, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Is the Model UN and mock trial, those after school or during
Yeah,
school?
those are after school.
Okay, great.
Okay. Ruler presentation from Montgomery C. Smith.
So good evening. I'm usually loud enough, but I think since we're streaming, I need to use the mic. We are here tonight to present Ruler at the elementary school. This is year number 3 of utilizing Ruler. This was something that we brought in as we looked at kids struggling with to be able to handle their emotions. And what can we do to support our students socially and emotionally? So Ruler is an evidence-based program. It is out of Yale. And so it's, there's an acronym. It's recognizing emotions, understanding the causes and consequences, labeling, expressing, and then finally regulating our emotions, right? And there's a little more depth in each of those, but I'm just going over the surface as we do this tonight with you guys. This is something we've embraced at the elementary school over time. We started with the faculty, and we did our introducing the mood meter and how do you want to feel at school. And I think we've been able to help to all the kids and the staff to start to be able to regulate their emotions in a better manner. There's a couple parts or anchor tools, as I would call them. There's the charter. In every classroom, there's a charter, and the students have input, and it's how do you want to feel at school? We as a faculty created a charter. In a faculty meeting, we did one of those where you identify the words that you want to feel, and they get bigger and smaller as they go. And so we looked at, what does our faculty want to feel at school? It's just not being safe. It's happy, or it's, those other emotions. Remember, there are all different emotions. And that's one of the real values I also find in Ruler, is teaching kids to identify emotions, to learn vocabulary to go along with that. Because I think we all know life is hard, and you're going to go through a lot of different challenges. And for kids to be able to gain these skills is essential. So we have the charter. Then we have the mood meter, and they're going to talk more about the mood meter. But I love the mood meter. My son, who's now in 3rd grade, when he first started coming home in kindergarten telling me it was yellow, I thought it was a bad thing. And then I realized, that's high energy and high pleasantness. And I'm like, oh. And so, but it has a lot of value. Our team utilizes this called How Do You Feel? And we identify to each other our feelings so we can support one another. Then there's the meta moment. What is the meta moment? It's like stop and think, right? Before you act. It really trains people to respond to emotional triggers in more effective ways, right? Because we all have things that trigger us. Someone who chews too loud, that noise that someone makes, whatever it is, that can be a trigger. And learning how to deal with that is something that kids need to do. So they need to be able to stop and think. And then the blueprint is just what it sounds like. How are you going to move forward? What does that structure look like? It's so the kids know how to plan to solve interpersonal conflicts. And this goes right along with restorative practices and is really just, meshes perfectly that kids are able to identify the feelings, and we're also able to work things out so that students in the long run learn how to solve conflict. Because I think we all know when the kids are young, we're there to support them, but as they get older, those conflicts need to lie with them. And they need to be able to solve with their peers. Why, right? So classrooms have more positive climate, have a better climate, less bullying, increase in attendance, less suspensions. And one of the things about Ruler, a lot of the data comes out of the New Haven schools where they utilize Ruler. And so that is, a demographic of, it's a challenging urban school. And so they've shown a lot of pieces that Ruler is effective. Students with Ruler schools experience fewer attention problems, better academic performance, more autonomy and leadership, less anxiety and depression. And so they also report more warmth and connectedness between teachers and students. Because that's what we want, right? We're teaching kids to build relationships. Because that's really what life is about. And if we're not teaching kids that at the elementary level and then the junior high and high school, they're not going to be prepared for life. So this How Do We Feel app, I have to say it's so useful. We're working towards our grade levels doing it because, we had one of the people on our team one morning and she punched in as red and, I stopped and I grabbed her coffee and a bagel and brought it in and, checked in, and she's gone now, but said, Megan, what can I do for you, right? What's going on? How can we help you? And just knowing that and that act that somebody did for her brightened her whole day. She had a rough night with the kids, the kid had been sick, kind of stuff. But it really can be important to help us to look at how our peers, how our friends are, and check in on one another. I encourage you as a board, check in with each other before the board meeting. Tell you how you're feeling. It identifies patterns. The super neat thing, so my son does this because he saw me do it. and he does it twice a day. But there are all these videos that go along with it, and the kids can really use them. And I know I keep using personal examples, but my wife is also a social worker at high school, and so they use Ruler. She utilizes the videos all the time. The kid comes into her office upset. They identify the feeling. She gives them, and the kid watches the video. And most times the kids are like, "That was really helpful," because we don't always have time, right? Not every crisis can we solve for kids. So I really find this to be a useful app. It is on either the App Store or the Google Play. So the importance of core routines, right? There are there are things that are core routines: mood meter check-in, morning meetings, and charter check-ins. So every morning you're going to check in. We then have morning meeting in our building where we introduce ruler lessons. We talk about the vocabulary. We talk about how to problem solve. We introduce those pieces. One of the great things with Ruler is it comes with pre-built lessons that the teachers can adapt to make sure kids are getting that emotional learning. And so, as I said, they share with restorative practices, and that core routine that the kids do, the utilizing the charter and the charter check-in, make sure the kids are feeling safe, feeling connected at school. And I think that was is that the last slide for me, Christina?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Van Slyke, who is another member of our Ruler team.
So, like Mr. Brenneman said, we have our check-ins. So when the kids come, so I just want you to know that my class I'm a special ed teacher. It's a life skills class. Ruler has made a huge difference in my classroom. My students walk into the classroom, they sign in on which quadrant, how they're feeling, and then as the day goes on, we have a morning meeting and we discuss our feelings. And this is including my staff too. Everybody in the classroom checks in. And what Mark had said about staff, it has made a huge difference with my staff. My staff the other day was really upset about something that had happened earlier in the day, and she ended up verbalizing it to the whole group, and we spoke to her about it, and it was just great. It was great to hear her feelings and how she was feeling about it, and then after we discussed it, she felt better and then moved herself into the yellow quadrant. But what's really cool is that some of the kids in my classroom have a difficult time communicating themselves to each other. And when we first started doing Ruler, one of my students who has autism would say, "I feel happy because all my friends are at school today." And that would be every single day. He would say, "I feel happy because all my friends are at school today." And it's incredible because now he's saying, "I am excited because tomorrow is Veterans Day." It's like just so sweet. Or "I am excited because I get to audition for the school play." And it just has evolved. And it's great that kids are coming in and we may discuss it all in a group. We all get in a circle and we all hear each other's feelings. And then as the day goes on, we check in again. And sometimes they're like, "I don't feel happy anymore," and they'll erase their name off the yellow and they'll put it in the red, and then we'll discuss it again. So it's just great that my students can verbalize how they're feeling. It's decreasing outbursts that may happen in the classroom, and they get to hear each other and support each other. So, the mood meter check-ins have just been really, really great for my class. Do I hit the middle button?
Left.
That's why I need glasses. No, right. Oh, I think I spoke about this. Yeah, so I already mentioned this. Okay. Some of the things for the morning meetings that we've done is Mark talked about the classroom charter. So we all got together as a group and we discussed how we want to feel in the classroom and what can we do to feel that way? What are some things we can do? So we have that posted in my classroom, and all my students signed this charter, and we revisit it. We revisit it maybe once a day. We revisit it a couple of times during the week, just saying, "So are we meeting our charter? Like, are are we following these particular things that we wanted to follow? And sometimes we revise it. So an example that just recently happened is couple of my students were on the playground, and one little kid gave the finger to the other kid. They took it as the middle finger, and they got really upset. And then the next thing you know, one kid's saying, "He called me trash." So we ended up meeting together and talking about it, and then revisiting the charter and adding things to the charter. Like, what could we do so that we can feel better as a classroom community? So we added things to it. Like, maybe we can give each other a high five. That will make us feel happy. And maybe we need to stop calling each other names. So we added that to our charter. The blueprint, we also use in our classroom. We have used it when there's a difference, when two kids are having differences, and if they're calm and ready to talk, then we meet together, and one student listens to another student's feelings, and then vice versa. And there's, no judgment. You're just listening to how each other feels, and then we move forward and try to resolve the conflict. We really, in our class, focus on breathing. There's very different strategies. Like, we've gone over different, there's like a snowball strategy when you breathe in and then you breathe out and you throw the snowball. They watch different breathing activities to learn how to calm their bodies down. And then best self reflection. And now I hand it over to you.
Right.
So I'm Christina Laurie, I'm the school social worker, and when I found out that we were going to be implementing Ruler, I was really happy about it because everybody in the school is trained it, or is being trained in it and participating in it. It's a lot of, it's overwhelming as the social worker to take on the social emotional learning of the whole entire building, and to know that we're all doing it together and not having a curriculum where I just go in and I teach a class and then I leave and then and then life continues. This is embedded into our culture, so that's something that I wholeheartedly believe in. We're comfortable about talking about feelings. Now, when at work, you're not really supposed to do that, right? Like, that we don't have that kind of we've been taught not to express, what's going on at home. We're taught to barrel through and get the work done. And this is kind of breaking that down, like Mark said, with the How You Feel app and things like that. We're checking in on ourselves and how, we feel, and how our peers feel, and our colleagues. So, the students are not just benefiting from this program, the staff is as well. The blueprint is, like Christina said, it's the conflict resolution part of the tools that we're using. So there's the 4 anchor tools. And it really goes through perspective taking. Like, how did you feel? How did the other person feel? How could they have felt in this situation? And why did you feel that way? And going through, there's a pre-conference, so if a student is not ready to have a conversation with the other student, most times we're like, we need to get this situation resolved, so you need to sit down with me right now. Well, if they're not ready to do that, then that's not the best time to do that. So then, we go through and we talk about, how did you express that feeling of being hurt or angry? Did that work for you? If it didn't work, we need to we need to think of something else. And then how can I handle the situation better? So there's a couple different graphics that we use depending on the older students or the younger students. But this is, pre-K to 5 we're using it, and the others we'll talk about it, in next. How did it not do meta mode?
No, go back one.
Well, we just talked about it, but there was a whole.
best self-reflection.
There was a little slide, but anyway,
Oh, okay.
so I'll tell you what it is. That's okay. I'll tell you what it is. So the meta moment is really the stop and the pause. Mark had mentioned that, and it's looking at yourself. Are you being your best self? Who do you want your best self to be? Do you want to present yourself as a raging lunatic, or do you want to present yourself as a kind, thoughtful, engaging person? With like a helpful friend. How do you want people to perceive you? And then the moment allows for you to use that time to, it's a pause, so you're using that time to utilize coping strategies, so like Christina had mentioned. We do talk about the different coping strategies within the curriculum in the classrooms. In terms of integrating it into lessons, so it's you saw it was a grid. We can graph our feelings. We can put them on a bar graph. We could write about certain feelings as a writing prompt in a ELA class. Sorry, not a teacher. And talk about characters in a book. This is not the slide that I had in mind, so that's why I'm a little bit off. But there is just multiple ways you can use it in math using the different axes. You can talk about how feelings changed over time. There's just, we want teachers to be creative about it and not have like a jarred curriculum or a jarred lesson, but to use what they're already using or do what they're already using and try to implement the tools throughout their lessons that they already have. So we're trying to eliminate or alleviate the teachers having to do more work. We want it to just be incorporated into what they're already doing. And they can do that by using the language as well. And then the charter.
I'm Carrie Patch. I'm one of the associate principals at MC Smith. Thank you guys for having us. I'm going to reiterate a lot of what my colleagues already talked about because it is a process that's interwoven throughout. But one thing I want to highlight in talking about the class charter is I really appreciate how they said it's not just a tool for our students, but it's a tool that adults are using as well, and we're modeling it for our students. So before we even had the classes create charters, we created a class charter as a staff, or a school charter as a staff. And we did that, like Mr. Brenneman said, with a word cloud where people identified ways they want to feel at school. And then the next part of that is after you determine how you want to feel at school, which for many of us is going to be similar. In fact, when we did it last year and this year, overwhelmingly the teachers responded with very similar words from one year to the next. Because unless you disagree strongly, we all want to feel safe at school, right? We all want to feel safe at work. That's something that won't change year to year. So once those feelings are identified, then there's the deeper layer of how are we going to commit to each other to create those feelings, to generate those feelings. So not only how do we want to feel, but what do we need to do to feel that way? And then the third layer is when we don't feel that way, what actions can we take to get back to that? Because that's the other piece of the mood meter that we talked about. If you want to stay in that feeling, or you want to shift, or you want to sway into another feeling. So first, our staff did a school charter, and then we had the students create one. This is our schools from this year. Can everyone read it? Do you want me to read it because it's tiny? You have it as well. But you can see the three segments I talked about, right? How we want to feel, what we're going to do to feel that way, what action steps are we going to take, and when the charter gets broken, because we're human and we're inevitable and we make mistakes, right, inevitably, what are we going to do? And so you can see the evolution of even our building learning the tools of Ruler, because last year when we made the charter, they didn't mention maybe some of the Ruler strategies in the what will we do. Now we say take a meta moment because the teachers are starting to recognize that that's something that you can use as a tool here. And the idea that feelings and emotions are going to sway and change all of the time. These are some of our classes charters from last year, examples of them. So we're at a stage now where we've developed a school charter for this year, and I'd say probably 70% of our classrooms have developed a classroom charter. And as Ms. Van Slyke said, it's something that evolves over time. And Ruler and the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence really stresses that. It's not a one and done. It's not you make the sign, you hang it up, and you just forget about it entirely. But instead, it's a working document that you return to. And our hope is that, like Ms. Van Slyke's class, many of the classrooms are sitting down and being like, ooh, I noticed my friend something is in the red. Did someone break our class charter and that's why you're feeling that way? Let's talk about what we can do to shift you out of the red and into yellow. And the kids really come together as a collective community to do that. And they sometimes have far better ideas about how to follow the charter than even grown-ups have. And then we have a Google Drive that all of our resources are in, because the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, as part of the program, has provided us access to all of these. It doesn't last forever. We're borrowing as much as we can and converting it into forms that we can continue to use long beyond our relationship. Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you, and do you have any questions?
Is there any data collection available for long periods of time or in a larger scale, or is pattern recognition only up to the teachers?
So you mean as a building? Like,
Or as a classroom, just is it able to collect and track data?
it is able to, depending on how you track that, right? So some people use, like, every kid has their picture on, and they go up and track their emotions, right? So unless the teacher is charting that, they're not really taking that data. If in the classrooms, if they're using the How Do We Feel app, then the teachers have that type of longitudinal data.
Or there is like an online virtual mood meter as part of the Yale website that when you use, it saves your past ones. So we've used this at faculty meetings, and we've looked at, oh, that's interesting. When we have a faculty meeting at the beginning of the week, the feelings might be different than at the end of the week, you know, like teachers, or we did it in our PLCs, and the morning PLCs, everybody was yellow. And then the 2 o'clock PLC, everyone was like, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm blue. So there's that piece that you can look at longevity-wise. And then the other cool thing, because I just went to the conference, so I'm geeking out on it, is that the Yale Center is continually doing research on this. So again, they're not static. They're not like, we did the research 10 years ago, we published it, it's done. Their constituents are continuously involved in research cycles where they're studying. I think they were actually looking at teachers and how teachers report their feelings on the mood meter over time, and they're soon to publish that.
You said this was the second year?
Third year.
Third year. Are there changes that you've made over time that you feel like are enhancing the implementation?
So it's a step-by-step implementation, so absolutely. Like the first year, we just introduced it to faculty, right? Then we introduced it to students, and they knew what the mood meter was. We had some really powerful moments. Like we had a moment in our 5th grade class where a student said something really mean about another student, and everything that kid got up and moved themselves to red. And they had like a classroom discussion, and it was really powerful to all the kids in there because they advocated for that other kid. And now this year, we're adding in all the lessons and morning meeting. So yes, but it's really been a measured approach. We have not drastically changed any of the core things that we've already put in place.
And it's cool to start to see the transfer. I had 2 of Christina's students on the announcements just by chance today for tomorrow, and they were both able to take their work, and these are kids, again, sometimes with some communication challenges, that they transferred the work they've done with her to my office, seeing my mood meter, and both were able to identify the color and a feeling word, and it wasn't just happy. So they're evolving their vocabulary too, which is cool.
Right, because we have more feelings than happy, mad, sad, and angry.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what
In
we're
case you
trying
did not
to-
know.
Right.
So, taking into account that it is early, like, what's the long-term plan for measuring how this impacts our students? Like, what are benchmarks for success that we're looking for?
So we look at attendance, we look at discipline data, we look at, trends of, playground disruptions, student being sent down during recess over squabbles over, basketball or whatever. Those, we have what we call an oops, which is where somebody sends a kid out, it's not really a referral, someone just needs to talk to them. We we look at tracking that as the way that we want to see the progress that we're making. Because, you know, you take attendance, kids want to be at school. They want to feel this way, they're feeling that way, they're going to come to school more. Same, you know, with discipline, that the ability to manage that emotion and the behavior.
We also use the SABRES tool, which is part of our FAST program. It's social and emotional behavior rating scale. There's a My SABRES part, which students rate themselves, and teachers rate the students on their end as well. And we've been using that, so we can use that over time.
Very cool.
And this year, just even on this year's data, I think we were like a quarter of the students that were identified last year were identified this year, way down as students who are in a red flag area.
And you mentioned like referral patterns, like what's been the general trend this year? Is it feeling?
So this year referrals are down, but last year we had a blip with a lot of bus referrals.
Mhm.
So as we look year to year with some interrupted, I think honestly to truly pull from that data, it's gonna take a couple more years. But we can look month to month, and if we exclude the bus information, we are similarly on track with down maybe 15 to 18%.
I
for
think
the
you
year.
also have to look at the types of referrals
Yeah.
that we're getting to, right? Like, we're moving away from, and this is anecdotal, but for my first year here, where there was a lot more interpersonal relationship, it seems to be more miscommunication that's happening now, and so I feel like that shows some growth in, like, they're identifying at least enough to pull back and censor themselves from making irrational decisions, but they're still having conflict, it's just not as escalated.
Are the student inputs on their emotions ever leading to teacher-parent meetings or meetings with the student and parents? Like, how are parents being involved?
So we've presented to parents, we will be doing a parent charter night, where the parents and the students will come in and create a charter for their house. We haven't really had, honestly, where like we've had a flag of a kid's emotions that we contacted the parent about it. We talk about it at Meet Teacher Night, we talk about it some in conferences, but it hasn't led to any explicit, like I'm calling this parent because I'm really concerned where they're checking out on the behavior.
And I also think that happens because we do change our emotions, right? And often with kiddos, when they're reporting the same emotion, like Ms. Van Slyke's story repeatedly, it's maybe that they're still developing their ability to identify where they are instead of that we all exist in the same spot all the time. Like I joked with my staff today that I'm in the yellow, like I'm hyper all the time, like excited, happy, pleasant, that's just my kind of baseline. But am I in the red sometimes? Absolutely. Am I in the green sometimes? Am I in the blue, yellow? Sure. So something else we do is, Ms. Hanley and I in the morning announcements, do them every morning, and we've consciously shared less pleasant and less energized emotions that are accurate, because we want to model for the kids that it's totally okay for Ms. Patch to say, you know what, I am feeling really tired today because my daughter was up late last night and I didn't get as much sleep as I wanted to, but I'm still going to give you my best selves. Because then we're modeling that even when you have the range of emotions, you can make intentional choices to stay or stay.
Do you have a question?
It looked like the final goal was regulation of emotion. So the company's primary goal is to control children's emotions. That's the goal, according to this project.
Well, I would say that
Regulate children's
It's to
emotions.
increase emotional intelligence. That's what the founder talks about, is increasing emotional intelligence.
I would think it was control if we were trying to say you had to only exist in yellow or you had to only exist in green. But instead it's about labeling and recognizing and understanding them instead of saying you have to do a certain one all the time. Or
You
do
said
it.
it was about reducing and limiting any disruptions of referrals, interruptions, angry students. So you were clear about what the intended goal was.
but
Yeah.
Mark,
students
I'm
who are.
so sorry. Right now it's supposed to be
Oh,
questions for the
I'm sorry.
board,
Okay,
and if they wanna talk, they have to sign up.
okay, I'm sorry.
That's
That's
okay,
okay.
thank you.
Saw the hand and tried to.
Anyone else? Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for being
Turn
here.
over to the junior high.
For everyone in attendance, my name is Kenny Bear. I am the proud interim principal of the junior high. With me is Mrs. Spinakos, a sixth grade special education teacher on our ruler committee. Mrs. Cousins could not be here tonight. Today was her birthday. But she was on the ruler committee as well. Mr. Brenneman and his team did the majority of the heavy lifting for our presentation, so I won't sit here and bore you with some details. Obviously, what is ruler? As Mr. Brenneman discussed, ruler is an evidence-based, transformative, school-wide social emotional program. It cultivates emotional intelligence and social emotional learning skills. Students, teachers, and administrators benefit from this comprehensive approach to emotional literacy. Ruler is an acronym for the 5 skills of emotional intelligence: recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating emotions. 4 keys to success of regulating emotions: self-awareness, how our students recognize triggers and patterns; coping strategies, how do we cope with our emotions; deep breathing, mindfulness, positive self-talk; emotional balance, maintaining equilibrium in challenging situations, responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. That's one of the main components that we really want to start focusing on. And resilience building. How do you bounce back from setbacks? Negative things are going to happen in everyone's life, in everyone's school day. How do we bounce back from them? How do we reset and go about our day? So at the junior high, we are in a little bit different situation than the elementary school. One of my first objectives when brought on as the interim principal at the junior high was to implement a social emotional program. Mr. Brenneman at the elementary school had ruler. I believe the high school had some ruler training as well. So it made sense to act with the district and develop a district-wide ruler program. This first year, the majority of our focus is going to be on getting our staff trained and introducing the program to faculty. When I say getting our staff trained, that doesn't just mean the teachers in the classroom. It's important for us to train every staff member in the building. That's from our custodial staff to our clerical staff to teachers to teacher assistants and aides. It's really important that everyone is on the same, using the same common language, the same thinking process and such. I would like to thank Ms. Spinakos and Ms. Cousins, who are part of the first training in person. It took place on October 13th and 14th, which one of those days was Columbus Day. So they really showed dedication by going to training on a holiday, which they had the day off. We have a few other trainings that staff is going to begin to take part in. There's another in-person training December 2nd and December 3rd. There's another online training January 13th to February 21st, as well as March 3rd and April 11th. The goal at the junior high is to get the majority of our staff trained, whether it's in-person, online, or to have a person who attended the in-person or online turnkey. But the goal is to have 100% trained by June. Again, whether it's turnkey, in-person, or online. We also would like to begin to implement the mood meter for the 6th grade. The thinking behind that is because all our students are coming up from the elementary school. They have already been trained in the mood meter. It makes sense to begin to implement it there, and then we will begin to pass it on to the 7th and 8th grade. But the goal is to get all staff trained and introduce the mood meter into the classroom. Benefits for students, as Mr. Brenneman and his team discussed: academic success. It will increase attendance, improve focus and engagement in learning, enhance problem solving and critical thinking skills, social relationships, stronger friendship and peer connection. The thinking behind is when we have conflict resolution, we are going to have issues amongst students. If they realize how to resolve them, they'll have better empathy skills. It will decrease bullying. Personal growth, increased self-confidence and self-awareness, greater resilience and adaptability to challenges. Impact on school climate, reduce disciplinary issues as discussed. When our students know how to when they have better conflict resolution, it will lead to less behavioral problems. Students will learn to manage emotions effectively, and it will also reduce suspensions. It's really a PBIS-based approach. Improve teacher-student relationships.
Oh, yes. Another impact on school climate is improved student-teacher relationships. Students now have a voice in the classroom to express how they're feeling. And emotions, as we learned in the Yale training, was a form of communication. Teachers can use that to their advantage. How is my student feeling? It creates more supportive classroom environment because students feel valued in their classrooms and they get to express themselves.
It's also going to lead to a positive school culture, a more inclusive and empathetic school community, an increased sense of belonging for all. That's why it's extremely important that all of our staff get trained in this program. Ruler tools and techniques. I'll let Ms. Spinakos discuss the mood meter.
So as Mr. Brenneman and his team discussed the mood meter, it's a visual tool to help students and teachers and all staff identify and communicate their emotions. And the important thing about the mood meter is that it should be done throughout the day, so not just one moment in time, because emotions change. You might start off the day in a happy, pleasant mood, and then, the afternoon everybody gets tired and emotions change. It helps students identify more emotional vocabulary besides being angry, happy, sad, and self-awareness on how they're feeling, and over time that they can track the patterns of their emotions.
We also have the blueprint, which is a framework for analyzing and resolving conflicts. I think it's important to note that that blueprint can be used for not only past conflicts, but also future conflicts. How do we go about eliminating the desire for future conflicts? Charter, which is a collaborative agreement on desired classroom feelings. I would obviously like to note, as Mr. Brenneman and his team discussed, this isn't just a charter in the classroom amongst the teacher and students. We will also be implementing one at the junior high amongst staff. It establishes a positive and supporting learning environment.
And a meta moment, which I think is a powerful tool. I use it all the time in my personal life and in the classroom. It's just that pause of self-reflection. It's like, okay, this has happened to me. I'm just gonna take a pause, take a deep breath, and how do I want to see myself through it? Do I want to be, angry and upset, or am I going to work through the challenge and come out on the positive end? So the ruler program promotes that, teaches students how to use strategies to work through any challenges that arise, because life is full of challenges.
All right, long-term outcomes and future directions. Lifelong emotional intelligence. Students carry ruler skills into adulthood. I think it's really important that we teach our students these skills. We can give them all the academic knowledge necessary to be successful in life, but if our kids can't be in a room with others, if they can't de-escalate, if they can't regulate their emotions, they are not going to be successful. I think it's equally important to give them the emotional skill set needed as much as the academic skill set. Ruler community impact. Ruler graduates contribute to a more empathetic society. And ongoing research, continuous improvement of ruler based on new findings. As we research the program, we will begin to implement any advances we see, and we will modify based upon the needs of our students. And that is all.
Great.
Any questions?
Thank you.
You touched on it a little bit, but
Yeah.
For an environment like the junior high school where students switch classrooms so frequently, is the idea that each time they go into a classroom they're checking in on the mood meter, or are there specific classes where that's part of the routine, or how do you imagine that coming together?
Well, that right now we do have a homeroom built in
Right.
in the morning, so we're looking into implementing it within the first 10 minutes of that day, first
Yeah.
period. But that is something that is up for discussion amongst our staff. It could be as simple as every month having it in a different content class.
Right.
Every month, September science, October social studies, and so on.
Mhm.
So that really will begin. That would be up to discussion with all our staff.
Right. I guess similarly with the classroom charters, would each how does each class have a charter, or is it a grade level, or?
Again, that is one of the challenges of the junior high. Obviously, in elementary school, they have a set teacher.
Yeah.
You know, again, in homeroom, we may build that all into if we can figure out how to extend it even once a month.
Yeah.
So, you know,
You can have like a grade level charter that's agreed. And the daily check-ins, I think that's just really quick. And
Yeah.
I think even if they do it each class, it would be valuable information, because maybe something happened in math class, and now that's used in ELA, and now they're on the red in ELA, it'll give that teacher a quick heads up that I have to talk to the student, something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a valuable tool, and it's quick.
Yeah. Cool. And last question, I know your students in your building are at the age now where they all have their own personal devices, and there's apps that we use like Stop It. Like, is there a digital version of this or a digital resource that they can use to start?
There was a digital, and I think Mark and his team mentioned it, there's a digital, one that they can do online.
the app, that was the,
Yeah.
How do we feel?
what is it called?
How do you
How do you
feel?
feel?
How
Right.
do you
Yeah,
feel?
I can feel it.
And you can friend people on it, so it has a social component as well.
Neat. Very cool.
Which they can also do on their Chromebooks as well.
Right. Awesome.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, everyone. Mr. Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Brenneman and the elementary staff, and Mr. Bear, the junior high staff. I think we have a pretty good understanding of what ruler is, so we're not gonna hash through all that. High school, we're at a different phase, so we're just gonna talk about where we are, where we're gonna go, moving forward with it. So we'll just talk, not gonna go over the 5 ruler skills, they both talked about those. How we're gonna integrate the principals to our school staff, and what the plan is implementing it going forward. Step 1, this is our ruler team in the high school right now, myself, Michelle Nowak, who's a science teacher, and Catherine Vera, school psychologist.
So, we just finished the training, literally last week. It's the 11/11. So I got my certificate on Friday, yay! So right now, it was a lot. We did the online, not the in-person. So for us, we were doing 2.5 hours every week. In person, as a team, going over what we see high school going forward, because we have so many, as well as meeting with their team, whether it's a Zoom meeting, and just going back and forth, just trying to get an idea of, because high school and junior high school does have a very different schedule than elementary school. So as you can see, we went through all the different areas, the mood meter, the charters, and right now, we're right down here. So, next slide. So we kind of figure out, what do we need to do? Our step 2s. How do we roll it out? This is year 1 for us. They call it 0 to 1, because not everyone is trained. So we really need to let the staff know what ruler is, how they're, have ownership of what ruler is in their classroom, and also for the students. We're not even to the students yet, so we're gonna do an overview, we're gonna do the mood meter, then introduce the charter, building that charter. We're going to work with the staff for them to build the charter, so we can see where we feel as a staff going forward, because we are a community, and we all need to be acknowledging of ourselves, how we feel, because sometimes we may not be coming in a good mood, and how can we reset ourselves going forward. And then they have sample lessons. We're gonna pull a rollout for one lesson for the teachers to see, because right now we're trying to figure out the when those lessons are going to happen. So like I said, we're really early. Next up. We're also gonna trial. I'm lucky that I'm collaborating with Nowak. We're going to do one of the rulers in our class.
Trail.
Oh, trail. We're on the right trail. Alright. So right now, we're gonna start looking out for volunteers in January, because they can't just be the 3 of us. We need to have more members of the community, of our school to buy in, and also we'll have students be part of our group as well, so we get feedback from them on where they see where we're going forward, and, give us their, side of, the slice of what it means to be a student in school. And also, we're setting the schedule starting after midterms. We're doing it in our ENL,
Science class.
science class. So we're also going to be tackling working with students that English is not their first language, to see, because we want to make sure that they are included and to kind of, meet their needs as well. And then we're going to set up meetings during that time also to reflect, to see what is working, what is not working. So before we even roll it out to everyone else, to get as many kids as possible. Are there going to be hiccups along the way? Sure. But if we can sit down and really have a reflection piece before we go forward to do a full rollout. So this year, we're learning. We're all students of ruler. Next year, we're bringing our students in with the mood meter. And then, by the end of the second year, I think we're ready to roll. Ready any changes.
I think the big piece is the consistency from pre-K through 12th grade and it moving up with our students already knowing the language and teaching it to our staff. Questions?
How is the Blue Hawk Academy a part of
They'll
this?
be integrated right in with this.
And restorative justice too, it's part of what they're talking about, taking the pause, having the communications. We're already kind of doing that, it's just becoming integrated into a larger format. So it's exciting, it's exciting to see that, our kids are gonna have a voice, as well as the faculty, to create a community that's positive and, and welcoming to everybody. So, this is our chance to do that.
And not to change the topic, restorative wise, we've started a lot more circles in the high school. So like what Mark's talking about at the elementary, where they have class conversations, we're doing that through people that have been trained in restorative in the high school.
Thank you.
So I kind of already asked this question, but it feels like in order for ruler to have lasting impact, there needs to be tracking of how the school as in total or in all is responding to the ruler program. So what ideas are there for tracking and then implementing changes and then tracking how those changes then affect the student body?
When you were asked that question the first time, I thought about Branching Minds, which is another format that we have, and on there's a social emotional, evaluation per se. So we will be able to see if students are going from certain levels, if they're improving in their mindset. But again, it's starting right now. So we may not see it at this moment, but the trend maybe for the 9th graders, by the time that they're juniors, we can look back at their data and say, okay, did this program have any, effect on how they felt in school? But we do have that in place, that's something new. That was part of the SABRE that somebody else had mentioned. That was, I think you might have taken that test too, where you had to say, how do I feel today? What is this? And so there was a number that was associated with that feedback. So you're gonna take that a little bit later on in the year. And if you're part of this ruler program, then there's the opportunity to be able to reflect on your emotions, so that when you take that SABRE test again, maybe you shift from a level 3, which means that you need a lot of support, to maybe you're a level 2. And then eventually, if you're here longer than you're a senior, but maybe, as the time moves on, then you'll be able to feel your emotions and handle them and have a more positive outlook, or just be more resilient. And then we may see those numbers, because there is already a format that's starting to document all of that. And teachers, all of your teachers will have access to say, okay, when he took this test on, October 12th, this was his level. So there is something that's already in place.
Okay.
It's just, it's beginning. This is just preliminary.
Thank you.
Yeah. One like Mr. Brenneman and Mr. Baer pointed out too, we should see it in attendance and academic grades as well. We're not just doing this just to create more work. It's all working towards the same goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
This is just small on the power.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's really small on the power.
He's gonna be the clerk.
Some of it's small on this, and you can watch
It's
before
okay, with
maybe.
glasses I can read it up close.
I don't have to.
Thank you.
So I have Mr. Payne with me for this one, department head and guidance counselor in the high school. We're gonna talk about our advanced placement, honors, and college courses. So what we're gonna cover, what you have is high school 2024-25 profile. The About Us is just talking about the district and the staff in the high school. Then it goes into district demographics, number of students, ethnicity. We are 72% economically disadvantaged. I'll cover this more after we go through the rest of these. How can a student enroll in an AP honors college class? We'll cover. What criteria to enroll in those courses? How much does it cost our students? And then we have a breakdown by our APs, honors, and college courses demographically from 2021 to 25, and then if you have any questions for us. Okay, so how do we get there? The 6 keys. These courses definitely strengthen the instructional core without question for our students. Also strengthening the instructional leadership capacity. So there's a process to how our staff can teach these courses. If it's a college course, they have to get approval by whatever college it is. If it's an AP course, it's gotta go through the college board. Again, going back to this, I talked about 100% of our students receive free lunch. They're economically disadvantaged, 72%. Below that is the grading and curriculum. This is what is required of our students to reach 22 credits and graduate. This is how they're graded. We're quarterly, every 10 weeks, things like that. The AP courses that we offer: World History 9th grade, World History 10th grade, U.S. History, Biology, and Environmental Science. The honors courses we currently offer are English 9, 10, and 11, Global 9, Global 10, U.S. History, and Living Environment.
And 2 things, Derek, I want in that one part. We go back. The biology and environmental science, they flop every other year. So this year, the students are taking AP Bio. Next year, they'll take AP Environmental Science. Also, in the racial demographics, if you look where it says multiracial, and it says roughly about 14%, also keep in mind in the multiracial, you could have some students from other ethnic or racial categories embedded in that as well. So that's something just to keep in mind. And again, one of the most key demographics, and we'll hit this later in the presentation, is a 72% economically disadvantaged. And we'll touch base on that.
So up on top, the courses, the college courses through Columbia Green, pre-calc, calculus, comp and lit, critical issues in health, composition, general psych, and introduction to sociology. And then we also work with SUNY Cobleskill, College Algebra, Concert Band, American Sign Language 3, American Sign Language 4, Drawing 1, and Intro to Chem. Okay. Mr. Payne, the SATs.
Yep, now the SATs, and actually I realize this is the older version right here. We actually do have the more updated one there as the 24. But basically, the number of test takers has declined for a couple of reasons. Many schools are becoming test optional. And that means you don't have to take an SAT and SAT to be admitted, I guess it's considered for admission. Another thing is that we see some of the difference in the scores. What you have in front of you, which is a more updated one, you'll see that some of the scores have actually increased. And you'll see an asterisk where it says 17. That's because some students may still take the SAT in the administration in December. Next year, when we have this fun again and we pull this information, we'll go back and we'll include that as well. So it will show that. Again, for the postgraduate plans, I will tell you, they have our students have a diverse, combination of their plans. On yours, you have the 24, and you'll see how 2-year colleges, 4-year college, employments, military, trade schools, unknown. I will tell you, the time I've been here, about 16 and a half years, it's kind of amazing how time flies. I've seen an increase of employment, people doing different things. The landscape of, I'm just gonna go and graduate and go to college is different. We're very strategic, and we use the word post-secondary plan, because everyone has a different path that he or she may take. And you'll see this, and this is just a snapshot, and again, this is 2024, of some of the courses that, colleges that our students have matriculated. And obviously, there's more of your profile really should not be more than 2 pages.
So Mr. Payne, our guidance staff, we usually do it in end of January. We're upping our schedule for next year, the timeline, so they're actually gonna do it next week. So they go into all the English classes, they talk about what we have for offerings. Mr. Payne, you just wanna talk about how the conversation you have in regards to AP honors and college courses?
The key thing for, especially with AP honors in college, but the AP, and we alluded to this in a previous meeting, is student interest. Prior to COVID, we would attend College Board Conference, and I wear different hats. So right now, this year, the guidance department head, but I am the AP coordinator and the PSAT coordinator. And one of the things with the College Board Conference, they were talking about decrease in the numbers of students enrolling in AP. And what they were talking about, we'll definitely give you specific numbers, is that the way the students are able to get college credit. Students are able to get college credit more easily through a college course versus AP. It's not to diminish AP, because AP is also important, but they were saying that naturally they saw the enrollment decreasing. So the key is student interest. The other part are teacher recommendations, academic performance. Derek's gonna go through a couple of slides, not to read them verbatim, but it shows you how you are able to get into an AP class or an honors class. One thing I will tell you with the honors, it's fluid. What that means is, let's say I start out and I'm not doing really well in my class, but all of a sudden I'm doing really, really well and my grades go up, I can be considered for honors the next year. And many of our students do that. So there's fluid. Again, also with advanced placement, interest. No one, if you're interested, we have a good shot of taking AP. So Derek has a
So
couple
this is
slides
just one
here.
example. I mean, some of the other, they're much longer. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
read through all of these. They're in your, the PowerPoint I shared out. But for this, I mean, it's a 10th grade exam, not a 9th grade exam,
Yeah.
which is the big thing with the AP World 9. And like Rocky said, if a student was showing more and more interest as a 9th grader, they could take AP World as a 10th grader.
Right. And again, this is
Same.
honors. Okay, now the college courses. Ultimately, Columbia Green has the decision if we get in. So basically, if a student says, I want to take a college course, you need an 80 average across the board with your English classes. And when we look at the college classes, we have a number of students who may, let's say, they haven't taken an honors course, maybe they haven't chosen taking AP, but their grades have actually increased, they're able to take, and they do choose to take a college level course. And so this right here is English composition, which is compared with English composition and literature 102, married together. That gives students their 4th year of English for their senior year. And that's just an example. Once Derek goes through more slides, I'll break down the cost more, the cost effectiveness of these classes, because it's pretty astounding, the cost effectiveness. Again, SUNY Cobleskill, years ago, and I have to give credit where credit's due. Okay, first of all, I want to say our profile, every year you have that information and you put it on a piece of paper. It's like, there's no exciting way to put it on there. A few years ago, we had a school counselor, Ms. Caitlin Dorr, who helped change the format. And the current school counselor, Katie Davis, actually helped revamp our profile. Going back to the college courses, we had students maxing out taking college courses. So what happened was we had students taking 12 plus credits, and they said, wait a minute, you can't do that. If you're doing that, you're a full-time college student. So we're kind of like, well, how do we help our students? We want them to take more college classes, but they can't be considered full-time college students. So at the time, past principal, Tinny Abbotable, said, what if we go out and look at another one? So it was Tinny and Stephanie Forsythe together work with COBOL skill. So they were able to split the number of credits they were getting per school. At the end, I will give you some examples of some of the number of credits our students are leaving with is astounding. So that's why we have some classes with COBOL skill.
Costs.
Yep. Now for the cost, long story short, if you're, let's say Columbia Green, if you fall under the free reduced program, your college and high school cost would be zero. If you are in full pay, you'll pay $73 per credit. So basically, if I were to go in a Columbia Green campus and I want to take a 3-credit course, I'm paying anywhere between $700 and $800. If I fill out my form and I'm free reduced lunch, it's going to cost me $0 for 3 college credits. If I'm a full pay, I'll hit that $73 with still a reduced rate. If I'm not a math major, but if you round it up, you're looking at $229 some for 3 college courses and like $292 for a 4-credit college course. COBOL skill, again, if you're free reduced, you're free, and the reduced rate is $25 per credit or $50 per credit. So again, you're looking at 3 college credit for $150, 4 maybe $200. That's a huge cost savings. I know it's fifty. Oh. All right, now talk. So I said, being here for a long time. One of the things that Derek and I were talking about, even though this is data, it's kind of like living data, because these numbers, we kind of know who the students are. And when I'm kind of putting this together, it kind of hit me a little bit. But I'm going to break these next couple of charts down. So for the class of 21, 22, or really class of 22, the total class was 113 students. When it says 70 students completed, what this means is that 70 students at some point in time in their high school career completed either a college course, AP, or honors course. And you say, how do you do that? I looked through every transcript from the class of 2022, 2023, 2024, and it was a long time, but it was interesting to see that. So 70 students out of that point in time are taking these courses. And there it goes to the next slide. We broke down demographics, demographic. And also, now 23 was a very small class. Now remember that, because everybody had to get through it. If you didn't have someone graduate, it hurt your accountability rate big time. And I remember with this, looking at it, out of those 86 students, 63 at some point in time in their career completed college, AP, or honors courses. And then the next slide, 24, 110 students, again, 66 students completed college, AP, or honors courses, and we broke it down demographically. And this slide's a little different, because the other one we're talking about students, this shows enrollments. Because what happens is that some of your students who are taking AP courses, they may cross-track and may take an AP course and an honors course. So it may go over. And a perfect example to explain the enrollments, I let our central administration team know that for this year, we have 42 students who are taking AP exams. In the portal, they also have 53 enrollments. That means there's some students that are taking more than one AP exam. Okay, so this right here is really demonstrating the enrollments. And again, with the numbers, when we talk about AP, this year we have 3 students challenging exams. What that means is that we have a student challenging AP Psychology, AP Government and Politics, and AP Microeconomics. We don't have staff that teach those subjects. So what these students will do, they will engage in a self-study independent on their own to prepare for these exams. And we found out, what was it, a couple of meetings ago, that's why we had 2 students who only took the calculus AB. They actually engaged in a self-study and they actually scored a 4 on those exams, and one student was an AP scholar doing that. And again, these are enrollments. So here are your college classes, English, your psych and soc, your math classes. Physics is not a college course, but I threw it in there because it's high level course. And we have music. We have college courses for music. And we have students who are earning those college credits. And again, we have your demographics. Before I do any questions, I had a student, literally saw him this weekend. He's going to SUNY Albany full time, and he's working part time. And he said that he's graduating a year early because his college credit transferred. Now, he transferred 21 college credits. This past year, I was kind of nervous. Last year, one of my seniors at senior meeting said, Mr. Payne, my goal is to transfer over 30 college credits. I'm like, wait a minute, like, how are we doing this? And she left with 33 college credits. The other part I want to throw in, the game changer, is that Hudson Valley, the last several summers, they have a grant that they wrote that they will cover up to 8 college credits for free, regardless of parents' income. So we have students taking these college credits in the summer. So that's a cost savings, number one, that's a reduced rate, and you're going to graduate early. What's nice about him, he's going to graduate and he's going to finish. Happy about that. I could talk a lot longer, but I won't. Are there any questions?
So you mentioned that schedules will be like starting to be drafted next week with students.
For the course request.
Course request, sorry. At the end of the year, is there going to be another chance to change that? And what if there's like a major shift? Like what if all the sophomores suddenly want to take physics at the end of the year, but didn't at the beginning of the year, and it wasn't even considered for the schedule? Like, is it fluid throughout the year?
It is fluid, and one thing is your master schedule, and you speak more to this, Derek, is driven by your course request. And that's one of the things we're going to try to do it early, because we tell students, if you're interested in something, you gotta request it, because if you have like a lot of numbers, then that's when Mr. Reardon says, you know what, this is what our students want, we need to offer this class. And I will tell you, with physics, happy about physics, there was a time where we didn't have physics. We didn't have it, now we have it, so we're hoping to build that for people too.
They tell you going in, if there's any doubt, just sign up for it.
Yeah.
Just,
Go on your interest, absolutely.
just sign up. And then, like you said, it's a jigsaw puzzle after that. We try to get every student, every single thing they want, but it comes down to it. Sometimes we have a lot of singletons, which means one offering, and we juggle it constantly for months trying to make everyone get what they want, but ultimately there's some that just need to make some choices.
I would just like to point out it was missing from the presentation, but when it comes to the AP fees, Mr. Payne is very good about getting reductions for students that need it, as well as the college or the dual enrollment courses, getting those fee reductions, but also the college board tests fees.
Thank you, Tom. You know that last year, we had 35 students take AP exams, 25 received fee reductions, and if you look at the math, that's 71.4%. And if you look at our demographics, 72% economically. Thank you, Tom, you're right, yeah, we do that. You know, we try our best. Yes, Ms.
I still
Kennedy.
have a question. So, and I think you kind of touched base on it, and about the AP courses versus the college courses. You can clearly see the benefits of the college courses, but I'm still kind of unsure of what is the benefit of the students that take the AP courses.
You know, Ms. Kids, I'm putting this together, I'm thinking this is dangerous, I'm the AP coordinator. So I'm thinking, you know, and this is why I look at it. There are benefits. Number one, it's national recognition. I will tell you that it does help some of our students be competitive when they're applying to colleges. You know, the rigor of it. But yeah, and I'll say before COVID, they were talking about this. We really weren't seeing it as much. And then when I started seeing the numbers of the students taking college courses, receiving credits, it's there. But like I said, I understand it's still important. The other part is the possibility of being an AP scholar. I will tell you, and actually I'm gonna share this with you, if you don't mind. For our AP scholars, I have this broken down as well. So for the and AP scholars is when you score 3 or more on an AP exam. So in 21-22, we had 8 students who were AP scholars. 3 out of 8 students were students of color, 3 Asian, 5 white, In the 22-23 test administration, we had 15 students who were AP scholars. 6 out of 15 students of color, that's 40%, 3 Asian, 1 multiracial, 2 white Hispanic, 9 white. And then in 24-23, we had 7 students who were AP scholars. 5 out of 7 were students of color, 3 Asian, 1 was an AP Scholar Honors, 1 multiracial, 1 white Hispanic, 2 white. So again, maybe, you know, in terms of looking competitive amongst your peers. But that's how I'm diplomatically answering that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think you touched on it, but the AP tests are more rigorous than
Yes.
the college courses.
And they're long. I mean, you've taken them. I proctored the exam. I will say this year they're all going to be digital with a little bit of hybrid with the AP Bio. And the digital format, I'll be honest, at first, around COVID, when they had the digital format, the students took it, but there was a problem with the submission. And it was from the college where they were just fleshing out. The last few years, the PSAT has been digital. Cheryl's staff has been outstanding. We just had a digital PSAT, no problems. And I'm actually a fan of the digital exam. I'm a little nervous about the AP this time because we're hoping that they clear the bugs out. But I'm a fan of the way it's going with the digital exam. It's supposed to be more streamlined for the students. So that will be new for myself and the students this year with the AP exams being digital. And they do it through the Blue Book application on the Chromebook.
Right.
Yep.
The college courses, are they in person, so are students actually going to Columbia Green? Are they online? How are they doing?
So what happens is that your faculty are actually adjunct instructors.
Right.
So they actually teach it here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Same for COBA skills.
Yeah, same course, absolutely.
And what about the BARD program? Is that still going on?
Now, the BARD program, actually, we just had a very, very productive trip to BARD. It was outstanding for our students. They had a really good experience. And we have a small number, but the students who go there, they have the potential to earn credit. I will tell you, the Columbia Green and your COBA skill credits have a high transferability rate. Obviously, your student is going to take them, but a high transferability rate amongst your private schools. BARD could be a little different, but I will say this, the BARD staff will work with individual students to do what they need to do to try to get many credits transferred. But we all know sometimes that's a funny game. Because what happens is that your credits do not transfer until after you step on a college campus. So once you step on a college campus, that's when your credits transfer. But people in BARD, they try their best to transfer as many as they can.
Mhm.
I had someone ask me about, this is more of a comment, not a question, sorry. But I had someone ask me about the relationship between an AP course and the Regents courses and the Regents tests. So when you are taking AP World and AP US History, you are learning the AP material and still have to take the US Regents exam. And I don't know, I had someone who was kind of worried about it, but the AP material transfers completely to the Regents material, and in my opinion, prepares you more because of how rigorous the course is. And so there's complete and total overlap between the Regents material needed and the AP material.
Yeah, so I mean, when I was in high school, I opted to take all the college credits instead of the AP classes because I took 2 of them, didn't pass them. I was like, this is easier. And so I think just like, yeah, the college courses are good, but I think I would just want to make sure that we're still pushing our students to take the most rigorous options out there and making sure that there's an opportunity to prove yourself and to go above and beyond and not just do the thing that's easier, which I wish I didn't do.
So like I said, there's definitely room for AP. And Tommy, when we were filling out their common application, there is that question compared to their peers. What is the rigor of their curriculum? If you want to choose most demanding.
And I would also like to say that our school has very good pass rates with the AP exams, especially last year. I know we had, I was speaking with the former AP US history teacher. She's the advisor for my mock trial team. And she was commenting on, you know, our school performs well on these exams with the group of students who choose to take the tests.
And in that, and it's funny, in that content area, we had a teacher who not only exceeded the state, but exceeded nation of the performance in his AP class. So I actually taught there. But I think we're very fortunate. Honestly, our students work hard. They're trying, they're taking tough classes. And I think we have very good teachers that really want to try to get them through and try to give them the best education. Because they're in the business of educating all students. And I think we want our students to be competitive and help them educate them. Any other questions?
I think just looking at the lens of the last 25 years, which is my context for the district, I think we had one AP course and 4 or 6 college classes. So this is, a terrific offering, I think, that has shown a lot of growth for the district.
Is there room to add more college courses?
There is.
Obviously.
Like I said before, with the schedule with single
Become a
kids,
victim of
we'd have to go more into, we offer this course this year and not just rotating the classes.
And the reason we talk about rotating, and I'm apologizing, I'm talking too much, but what happens, like with AP Bio and AP Environmental Science, it allows the students to be able to take Mr. McDarby. Sometimes if you have it at the same time, because there's only really 8 periods in a day, because you have to have lunch, you can only fit so much. So for years, they've been alternating the AP Bio and AP Environmental Science so they can hit. Now, it is a gamble because maybe you're able to get it, you're not, but what happens, you have all at the same time, there's too much on the menu. But I will tell you that there are teachers who have made comments that they are interested in teaching new college courses as well, because they're just seeing the benefits of it.
At a further time, you mentioned all the students going straight to employment or trade school, and I know there's some really exciting CTE classes, and I saw even just on Facebook that there's a small engine class and some really exciting other things that are happening. So love to hear about those at some other point too.
Yeah, we definitely like to get more hands-on experience, because Questar they do what they can, but there's only so many spots that you can break it down. I just want to break this down. Sometimes people say, like, what can you do? Because they also only can take so many people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like you have a good problem, but, and Questar has been good to us. They have been.
Well, so students don't want to leave for the whole day. They want to be able to try something out and not commit to it. So it's good that we're doing that too.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good evening. I am Kim Carnegie. I am your Director of Student Services here at the Hudson City School District. Dr. Pennyman asked me to put together a presentation on special education. This is going to be kind of like Special Ed 101, but with some of our specific numbers. So I've got an ambitious agenda, and so I will probably do my New Jersey thing and talk quickly. So slow me down if you need me to. So we're going to kind of cover the definition, the legal framework, our current demographics, the programs and services that are on the continuum in New York State, and also we offer here the blueprint for improved results for students with disabilities in New York State, specially designed instruction, and what that looks like, our state performance indicators, which is the accountability system for special education, some challenges and areas for improvement we're experiencing, and future goals and vision. So the mission of the New York State Education Department Office of Special Ed is to ensure that students with disabilities have opportunities to benefit from high quality instruction, to reach the same standards as all students, and to leave school prepared to successfully transition to post-skilled learning, living, and working. There is an expectation that about 98% of the students that are classified are working towards a regular diploma. The definition of special education through New York State means specially designed individualized or group instruction or special services or programs as defined in subdivision 2 of section 4401 of ed law, and we'll cover that in a minute, and or special ed transportation, and it's provided at no cost to parents to meet the unique needs of students with disabilities. So you'll hear FAPE, or free and appropriate public education. So it is at no cost to parents. This instruction includes that is conducted in classrooms, in the home, for students that are on home instruction, potentially in hospitals, institutions, in any other setting. This instruction includes specially designed instruction, which we'll talk about a little bit later, also in physical education, including adaptive physical education. So here's that subdivision 2, and it goes into a little bit more detail about what it might look like, what specially designed instruction and special education in New York State might look like. It could be special classes, transitional support services, resource rooms, direct and indirect consultant teacher services, transition services. It could include devices such as assistive technology devices, travel training for students who may need to learn to take public transportation, home instruction for those students who can't be in school, and then special teachers to include itinerant teachers as provided by schools of the district of residence with such terms and services to be defined by the regulations of the commissioner. So specially designed instruction is provided by a special education teacher or a reading teacher if it's for reading, or a related service provider. And then further, individual student needs are determined by our Committee on Special Education, and we consider these 4 things: the academic achievement, the functional performance, and the learning characteristics of students, their social development, their physical development, and also any management they need in terms of the environmental setting, the human resources they might need, or material resources they might need to be able to go back to that definition and access the general curriculum so that they could be working towards a high school diploma. So legally, we're bound by 3 major laws. We're governed by the federal law of IDEA, the New York State Commissioner's Regulations, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we must, and here's where that FAPE, or free appropriate public education, comes in the least restrictive environment for all students with disabilities. And we had done this in policy last year. I think, Kia, I think you were there. Until they turn 22, except for in Hudson, it's until they finish the school year when they turn 22, or earn a regular high school diploma. So if a student is able to earn their high school diploma, then their education ends. If they're not able to earn a regular education general diploma, and they're working towards a skills and achievement commencement credential, such as a student who is alternately assessed, then they are entitled to stay in school through June of their 22nd birthday. And the little, I can go back there. My little quotes, or the thank you, parentheses at the bottom. This includes continuing to try new placements on the continuum, which could include and does include in some cases in and out of state day and residential programs and or work study programs for students. We also must follow each student's IEP by providing those services, accommodations, modifications, and devices, which are determined at the CSE to be appropriate and necessary for them to continue to progress towards the New York State learning standards. We also must provide opportunities for our students with disabilities at the same level as their non-disabled peers. It includes access and progression in general ed curriculum. It includes extracurriculars. For instance, we have a student who is deaf, and he's in a specialized deaf hard of hearing program. He participated in a sport. We had to provide the interpreter for that sport. So we are obligated, even beyond the school day, to provide services so that they can participate just like their non-disabled peers would participate. And then also we're required in New York State to use a response to intervention model when determining a student to be eligible for classification as a student with a learning disability and receive an IEP. So our RTI model is now the MTSS. We've talked, you've had some presentations about the MTSS model. And it includes interventions in academics, behavior, speech, OT, and counseling before a school referral can be made. for a CSE evaluation. A parent does have the ability to make a referral, but a student cannot be classified as a learning disabled student if they haven't been through and received general ed supports. So the continuum of services, and we have everything in our district that can be offered. We could have a student who's related service only. So maybe they have a speech and language impairment and they only need speech, but they're able to access the general curriculum without extra support. That would be a related service only student. The next level on the continuum of least restrictive would be consultant teacher services, either indirect or direct. Indirect being the special ed teacher works with the teachers to support the student, and direct would be working with the student to provide those services. Integrated co-teaching classes, special classes, which are our self-contained classrooms, and in our district we have a whole bunch of different ratios based on the needs of our students. So from K through 12th grade, our communications, life skills, and alternate assessment classes, the ratios start in K to 2 at 814. They go up to 1214, and then at the high school level, they're 1212. So they're getting less adult support because there's an expectation that they've developed the skills to be a little bit more independent. Our social, emotional, and behavioral classes start at 612, go to 812, go to 1211 at the secondary, on the secondary campus. And then our skills classes are, we have 1212s for the little ones, and then we go to 15-1s or 15-1-2, depending on the needs of the student, and then at the high school, they're 15-1s. It should be noted that the only students that aren't working towards a regular New York State diploma are the students in that first tier, the communication, life skills, and alternate assessment classes. All the rest of the students in these self-contained classes are still expected to pass the Regents exams and be exposed to and make progress in the general curriculum. For the first time, we are an out-of-district placement for other local school districts. We currently have 3 school districts sending 5 students to us that they're paying us tuition for because they don't have programs in their local districts that meet the needs of those children. So they contact us because BOCES doesn't have room. Do you have room? Here's the profile of the student. We meet as a team to discuss the needs of the student and whether or not we think we have a program in our continuum that would meet that child's needs, and then we either say yes or no. I've declined 2 students because I felt their needs were greater than we could meet, but we've accepted 5. So we are basically like BOCES for some of the other districts in Columbia County because there's not a lot of programs out there. So here are our demographics as of the beginning of November when I did this presentation for the 24-25 school year. So that's the counts for each of the 13 classification areas recognized in New York State, and then the percentage of those. At Beds Day last year, we had 285 classified students. This year, in November, we have 303. Some of that is because we've classified a few students. We've also received a number of students from other districts that have moved in that already had IEPs and were already classified. So where do our students attend? So of the 303, 266 of them attend our in-district schools. 2 of them are parentally placed. So those we have no control over. These are students whose parents may work in other public school districts as teachers, and they decide they want their children to go to those public schools. And so that is always an option. We have to maintain the IEP for that child because we are the district of residence, but the other school provides the services, and they're on the other school's accountability. So how they do in school is up to the other school. So we have 2 students that are in other local school districts by parent choice. We have only 8 students at BOCES. When I started here 15 years ago, we had almost 50 students at BOCES programs. We are down to only 8 students in BOCES programs. We have 19 in approved private schools. They can only go to an approved private school if BOCES says no. So you can see that our numbers at BOCES are pretty low because our students need a higher level of support than BOCES says they can offer. And then we have 4 students that are residentially placed because they have needs so great that it carries over the school day, beyond the school day into their life. We have 4 students that are right now on home instruction, or one at the tutoring center that are waiting for out-of-district programs, but as I'll talk a little bit later, we don't have enough out-of-district program availability to send the kids that need that level of service. So right now we have 4 that are home. We also have 3 in-district kids that are waiting for placements, but we're still housing them in school. So when it becomes a significant safety issue, that we can't maintain the safety of the child or the other children in a classroom, we put students on home instruction. And the parent has to agree to that. That's something that the parent agrees to. So that's where our students attend. I participated in a portion of the superintendent's meeting last week when Chris Soriano, the main guy in the Office of Special Ed, was doing a presentation, and he did say that they want to see the number of out-of-district placed students at 10% or lower. We're at 11.5, I think. So we're a little bit high with those 4 students that we're sending out of district. But not a lot of districts are a lot higher than that because they don't have those programs that we have in district. So we keep as many students in district as we possibly can. So this is just a breakdown from building to building. This is the K-2 students at the elementary school. We have 42. Of note, we currently have 14 4-year-olds that will be entering kindergarten in 25-26 that are classified and receiving services through CPSE, or should be receiving services through CPSE, but there are no providers. So we do have a group of students that are currently not receiving services because there are no service providers in Columbia County that are available. And they will be coming to our kindergartens next year. And then we have 2 students that are currently being evaluated. And this is where they go. We have some students that receive resource room and some are in co-teaching, and you can see. And then what I did was, if we have a tuition student, one of those students from another district that comes in, I put them on there. So we have 1 student who is a first grader in our 12-1-2, and we have 1 student who, we have actually 2 first graders from 2 different districts that are in the in self-contained classes. And then we go on to 3 through 5. There were 63 classified 3rd through 5th graders, 2 pending evaluations that we're in process for, and there's another tuition student in a self-contained class, and that's kind of where our numbers are.
Is there overlap, like the ICT math and ICT ELA? The 5 and
Generally,
the 7,
yes.
could that be
A
the
lot
same
of times
kid?
they'll be at the elementary school in particular. The integrated co-teacher typically stays with a home-based teacher, and so yes, but not every student that has integrated ELA needs integrated
Yep.
math. So yeah. And then in the special classes here, we have 1 class that's just 3rd graders because there were so many 2nd graders last year that we couldn't combine them with another grade level. And then we have a 4-5 skills class as well. We only have 5 students in our behavior class, which is a good thing. That would be one argument I would make that ruler's working, because in order to be in our behavior class, your behavior has to be pretty significant. And we are not full. And then here's at the junior high, we had a bubble of kids come up. We have 87 in just the 3 grade levels of the junior high right now. And we do have another tuition student in our NYSA class in that building. And then the high school, we have 90 classified students. We don't have any kids in the process of being evaluated. And then mid-year last year, we lost our duly certified special ed math certified teacher. So that teacher was certified in math and certified in special ed, and she was teaching some self-contained classes. Just special ed students, small class, and because she was certified in both, she was able to give them that instruction. She left mid-year. We have not been able to hire a teacher that is certified in both math and special ed. So we've had to put those students into a co-teach model in math. So there's 13 of those students. And then historically, by the time they get to 11th grade, we don't have a lot of self-contained classes, unless it's an alternate assessment class, or a skills class, but even most of those are the students' second year of science. But there's an expectation that they're getting ready to graduate from high school in 2 years, and there's not special ed in life. So we really want our students working towards regular diplomas to become more independent and able to work in an integrated setting or with resource room support. And that's our last tuition student. He's a super senior. So here's New York State Education's department, special ed department's blueprint for improved results. They look at, these are the areas that we need to look at as we're building IEPs. Self-advocacy, family partnership. Self-advocacy, by the way, Ruler helps with that, where they're able to advocate how they're feeling. So that is a nice segue into that. Family partnership, specially designed instruction, research-based instruction, multi-tiered support, we talked about MTSS. Inclusive activities, expecting students to be able to be inclusive with anything that the general ed students, non-disabled peers are participating in, and then transition support. I think I've talked before about our life skills at the high school. They go off campus 3 days a week. They go to a farm, they go to Tractor Supply, they go to Goodwill, they go to the college and do kind of micro learning, and some of them have earned micro credentials. So they have a lot of opportunity to get some work-based learning. And in fact, one of our students who graduated a couple years ago was hired full-time at the Parks Department. And he works up at Olana full-time. That would be a student that was an alternate assessment student, not working towards a regular diploma. We also have a student who graduated 5 or 6 years ago, I think, who is now working in the cafeteria at the elementary school that came out of our life skills class. So there is an expectation that we are going to get those students so that they can work if that's their choice. Excuse me. Specially designed instruction, by definition, means adapting as appropriate to the needs of an eligible child under this part, the content, methodology of delivery of instruction to address the unique needs of the child and to ensure access of the child to the general curriculum so that the child can meet the educational standards within the jurisdiction of the public agency. In other words, there is an expectation that specially designed instruction is going to take those students and make sure they have access to and progress in the regular curriculum. So we can focus on content, which is what is taught, allowing the student to access. So do they need adaptations? Do they need specialized instruction in a particular way? What the content and skills are in their IEP goals, and how do we leverage students' strengths and current knowledge as we identify how we're going to adapt the instructional content. Sometimes in some of our self-contained classes, we look at the standards and we look at the power standards, and we spend more time on some of those standards that are more key and maybe not go into so much depth in some of the other materials if they need double time or 2.5 times to learn the material. We can also modify the methodology, which is how the instruction is delivered. And I don't know if I've ever said before, maybe not with this board, special ed is a service, not a place. So it can be in a general classroom. It can be in a self-contained classroom. How are we going to do that? Are we going to do a small group within the general ed classroom? Are they going to go out for resource room? And are there methods that are not effective for the student when they're learning so that we don't try them next year? And then also the delivery of instruction, which is by whom, where, and when. So I did mention before that the specially designed instruction is supposed to be a special ed teacher, but can be a reading teacher if they're teaching reading. So we have those conversations at CSE meetings. Yes, they could have a resource room with a special ed teacher, but they also could access the reading instructor for specific reading skills that we know that reading teacher is going to be teaching. So those are conversations at our CSE meetings about who is gonna be the best person to provide that service, and where and when. So group size, sometimes that's where we come across as self-contained. And sometimes our teachers have to learn how to do things differently because the student that shows up in front of us has a disability that we're not used to. So 2 days before the school year started this year, we had a student transfer to us from another district. She's blind. We didn't have any blind students. We had one visually impaired student in the past. So, I mean, it was like, okay, we need to get specialized materials. We need to, get a separate monitor for the computer and a new keyboard, and that's what we do. All right. Also, it could be adaptive phys ed if there's a reason for the student, there's a physical disability that the student can't participate in regular phys ed, but also if they're a student with significant needs, such as a student with autism who may be nonverbal, who might not handle a gym class of 40 kids running around. That might be a reason to have adaptive phys ed as well. And adaptive phys ed can happen in the general classroom with modifications or in a separate classroom as well. We differentiate instruction. We may need to adjust it down. We may need to adjust it up. We have a student, or had a student last year who was a student with a disability, but who also was very gifted in an area. So we needed to make sure that he was being presented with material that would meet some of his needs in that area. Direct explicit instruction, accommodations and modifications, and small group or one-on-one instruction if it's necessary. So then we get into the accountability for New York State and special education. There is an accountability plan, and every year school districts have to report on one particular indicator, and it rotates. This year we're required to report on timely evaluations. So from the day we get consent until the day we hold the CSE meeting, there's 60 calendar days. So we have to make sure that we meet those timelines. Also, we needed to get 78 surveys back from the parent involvement survey last year, and we didn't get 78 surveys back, so we're going to have to re-report on that, although they haven't told me that yet. I just know from being around a long time that if we didn't hit our threshold, they would be letting us know that we have to retry again this year. The state hasn't released the schedule beyond this year, but I just kind of went along the way it's been going for the last 10 years and anticipate that this is what we will be reporting on the next 3 years beyond this year. Separate from that is the Special Education Quality Assurance Department at Special Education at State Ed. And we have been identified as a school district needing focused intervention and participating in targeted skills group this year for 2 areas. The first area is New York State alternate assessment because our participation rate is over 2%. We have a bubble of students who have been moving up for 6 years in a grade, kind of in a grade band. And every year we're over our 2% because of this group of kids. This year, they're not taking the NYSA. So next year, we should be below our 2%. And then they'll take it again in 2 years as a high school student. But they want us to not have more than 2% of our students taking the alternate assessment. Our percentage is at about 3%. Last year, we participated in targeted skill group, and we were 100% compliant with everything that we needed to do. We're doing everything right. We just have a number of students that are just moving up through the system. Our alternate assessment class in the 3 to 5 grade this year is only 6 students. Our junior high class is only 6 students. So now we have just a few in each grade level. But there's this bubble that are now in 9th grade, and they don't get tested in 9th grade. They'll get tested 2 years from now. That has kind of put us over that percentage. But we'll participate in the training, and hopefully they're supposed to be coming up with something new because we're already 100% compliant. So to go over the same rules and files that we've already reviewed doesn't make a lot of sense. But we are participating in that. And then the other one that we have to participate in this year is new. It's the least restrictive environment. And what the state is saying is that we have too many students in district in self-contained classes for too much of their day. So they want to see more push out to general education. We have no idea what that training is going to look like. We have no idea what the data collection is going to look like. We have our first meeting in a few weeks. But we are required to participate in that, to take a look at least restrictive environment. So yeah, most districts that are in trouble for least restrictive environment is because they send too many students out of district. They don't have programs in district and they send them out. We're able to keep our kids in district, but they are self-contained more than 40% of their day. So some of our challenges, I've talked about these before, are hard to place students. So like we have one student who's deaf, hard of hearing. There is one program, it is in Guilderland. So every year that poor student, since he was in kindergarten, has been driving all the way to Guilderland every day for his program. We have students with global development, language, and physical needs. Those are some of those students that are hard to place that I said are on home instruction. We have students with psychiatric needs and significant behavioral issues that can't keep themselves safe. So that's a challenge. And part of the reason that's a challenge is farther down, hard to fill positions. There are special ed schools sitting with empty classrooms because they can't find staff. So they can't accept students. So we have trouble filling all of our positions. They're having trouble filling their positions. But when I find out that one of the places that I send my little guys, the K-5 students, has 2 empty classrooms because they can't staff them, like that, it's heartbreaking because it would be nice if they were in school. So lack of openings in out-of-district programs. Like I said, they have fewer openings because they don't have all their classes open. And we're all, post-COVID, having a lot more students that are experiencing a lot more dysregulation in their lives. And they just can't keep themselves together. And then we have challenging behaviors of in-district students. New York State says you shouldn't be suspending a kid beyond 10 days in a full school year. We have students that have hit their 10 days already. So in an ideal world, you'd be able to say, wow, maybe we could send them to the BOCES program, but there's waiting lists 3 to 5 deep for those programs. Future goals and vision. I didn't really plan for this. I assume you guys know I'm retiring in a couple months. But we will continue to work with the Capital District Regional Partnership Center for those areas that we are cited for. Consider development of even more specialized programs for hard-to-place students. It's tricky though because all of our schools are busting at the seams and we don't have a lot of space for new classrooms. And then the other piece, I think I mentioned before, there's not enough providers of CPSE. So that's preschool special ed. So we have students that will be found eligible to receive a program or speech or OT. And we say, yep, they're eligible, yep, they should get it. And there are no providers in Columbia County that are contracting with Columbia County to provide that service. So they don't get service, and then they show up on our doorstep. So there is a possibility of the school district applying to become a CPSE provider and start providing the services themselves, but we would have to hire staff to do any of that work. I mean, you get money for it, you know, there is a rate that Columbia County is approved for. And my staff is tapped. Most of my staff are seeing more students than any other district in Columbia, Rensselaer, or Greene counties on a daily basis. So we would not be able to become a CPSE provider without hiring new staff. But one thing that the district could consider is making one of our UPK classes an integrated program. So then it could take 6 classified CPSE students that are 4, and take 6 of those slots away from other students. And then it would be taught by the UPK teacher and a special ed teacher. So there are options for the preschool. Most services in preschool can be offered itinerantly. So like if we hired a speech person to do CPSE, they could go to the homes or they could go to their daycare centers, wherever they are. But it is something that would require additional hiring, and there is an application process for that. So that is something to consider. I'm assuming that in the next 5 years, the state's probably gonna come down with, well, you're responsible anyway, you guys need to provide those services, figure it out. I'm not sure. I know that Columbia County is trying to get their rates raised because providers are just not coming because they can make more money in Albany County than they can in Columbia County. Questions? That's a lot, and I talk fast.
Oh, well, I'd like to thank you for giving your presentation first. I felt pretty ignorant walking in, but thank you very much. I was curious what the role of the committee you mentioned was, like the specifics of it.
Okay.
And also who the members are, not
Sure.
names, but like roles.
Yeah,
Are
yeah,
they teachers?
no, I get, yep, absolutely. So the Committee on Special Education, and there's also a Committee on Preschool Special Education, is made up of the parent, the special ed teacher, a general ed teacher, a psychologist, if needed to be there, a chairperson, who I have a district chairperson and me, and all of my psychologists are also sub-chair people, and then any of the related service providers. So if Johnny is in a class and he has a special ed teacher and he also gets speech and OT, when we schedule a meeting, then his speech person would come, and his OT person would come, and his general ed teacher would come, and his special ed teacher would come. There would be a chairperson and then a psychologist if they were reviewing the results of an evaluation. So New York State requires that we do a full evaluation every 3 years that a student is receiving services. So that's one reason to have a meeting. Another reason to have a meeting is you have to have one meeting at least every year. So it's called an annual review. So we do those annual reviews to create the next IEP for the next year. An IEP goes from September to June, or July to June if they're a summer school student.
And is that assessment you just mentioned the NYSAA assessment?
No.
Okay.
So in lieu of state testing, students take the NYSAA, which is the New York
Okay.
State Alternate Assessment.
Okay.
So like 3 through 8, they have to take testing. It's the NYSA is the test. But every 3 years, there's a psychological that usually assesses ability level or IQ, speech, OT, developmental, their academic achievement. So those are the assessments that happen every 3 years, separate and apart from the New York State testing program.
I also had more of a data question, but what is the, how good is our retention of these students? Are they able to stay within the Hudson City School District throughout, all 12 years, or?
Most of them, yes.
Okay.
And ideally, after a few years of service, we will declassify them.
Okay.
And then they will become a general ed student, with maybe a 504 plan if they have a diagnosis or whatever. But yeah, I mean, at any time, a student could be referred to be evaluated for services, and then every 3 years, we determine whether they still need those services or whether they can function without one. Other? Yeah.
Last time you presented, the focus was on declassification.
Yep.
Has there been any movement
There has
or
not
trend?
been a whole lot of declassification.
Okay.
There has not been since last, I think I presented in March. I think we've declassified 2 students, but we've classified more than that. So our declassification rate is pretty low. Yeah.
Is that a reflection of the district, or is that just what it is?
It's a reflection of a lot of things. One thing could be just instruction in general. It could be the needs of the students. Our students are, many of our students are significantly challenged in terms of academics, social emotional, language. There are students that, might be classified in another district because of their performance, but they're performing like most of our students are, so we would potentially not consider a student eligible for classification. We have found, some of our students who have special education needs, but are also English as a second language students, really struggle to come out of English as a second language and out of special education because there's so much more going on. So there's a lot of different things that can play into that.
And I was a little confused about the drop in BOCES participation and higher number of privates. Is that a good thing about our district that we're able to keep more students
It's more a reflection on BOCES not accepting our students
Okay.
than it is on us keeping students
Oh,
in.
alright.
I mean, we are keeping many more students in than we used to. We've created a lot of new programs that weren't here when I got here, but again, I've been here 15 years now. We do have enough programs where we keep students in to the extent that we can. So when we send a student out of district, there's significant needs that we're not meeting. And unfortunately, BOCES, I think at last calculation, was rejecting 70% of the students we refer. So they're just saying, we don't have a program for your child. And part of that, they say, is because we have so many of our own programs. So if they weren't able to make it in our 612, would they make it in BOCES 612? My argument would be yes, because they're in a building of 40 or 50 kids, and we're in a building of hundreds of kids. But,
Thank you.
good question. Anybody else? It was a lot. I talked fast.
It was very
Thank you.
informative.
Yeah,
I'll
thank
echo what Thomas said. It was, for a layperson, it was very informative.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there's no need for an early executive. Personnel agenda, any questions? Anyone? No? I'd like to make a motion to accept personnel agenda item A, 1 to 10, and items B, 1 to 5.
Second.
All in favor? Yeah.
So as part of the personnel agenda, we have a third grade teacher, Lisa Small, if you would stand, please, Ms. Small. And I just want to read a brief bio about Ms. Small. Lisa Small, formerly Lisa First, has spent most of her life in Columbia County and is a graduate of Hudson High School. She received her bachelor's degree from SUNY Plattsburgh in elementary education and a master's degree in reading at Adelphi University. She began her teaching career in Hudson City School District as a reading teacher and then spent many years as a 5th grade teacher. She spent 2 years abroad teaching 5th grade at the Singapore American School in the Republic of Singapore and in Southeast Asia. She took a break from teaching to raise her children, and during that time, she was a substitute teacher. She did a long-term substitute position in 3rd grade and eventually went back to work full-time as a teaching assistant in a self-contained K-2 special education classroom for Ichabod Crane Central School District. She went back to being a full-time classroom teacher in 2021 in the Troy City School District as a 5th grade teacher, and then as a co-teacher and intervention teacher in kindergarten and 2nd grade. She's looking forward to returning to HCSD and to teach 3rd grade. A fun fact about Ms. Small is that she was once a musician in Jimmy Buffett's flight attendant on his private jet as a summer job. Welcome, Ms. Small.
I wasn't a musician, I was a slave.
Welcome. And we also have Mr. Malachi Walker now. He, in the last board meeting, I believe, we okayed his employment, but he wasn't able to come. So he's our restorative practices specialist. So I'm pleased to introduce Malachi Walker from Hudson, New York, born and raised, and a Hudson alum. Mr. Walker volunteered for Hudson Youth Department throughout his life. He has served as an assistant coach for Pop Warner football for a number of years. He's had over a decade of experience working with the Office of Children and Families of the state of New York in a classroom setting and over a decade of supervising a resident household for people with mental disabilities. Mr. Walker worked 19 years for MHA as a mentor and skill builder for young individuals that were referred through the probation or DSS, the MHA clinic, and referrals through the Hudson City School District. He has worked 24 years at Columbia Opportunities, advocating for families and their needs in the community. He's networked with available resources of neighboring agencies. He's been a foster care parent for almost 2 decades, and together with his wife, welcoming children from all walks of life in their home with open arms. And he truly believes and loves in love and experience is that love and experience is one of the greatest, best motivators and driving forces. A fun fact is that in his senior year in high school, he once jumped 21 and a half feet in the long jump event to qualify for state competition in track and field, but was never able to attend because he got sick the day before the event. Welcome, Mr. Walker.
Welcome, congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to convene into the public comment period of our meeting. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we have chosen to do so because we believe it's crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. It's because we can take your questions and concerns seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We'll, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you. Also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel. Please know that we take these concerns seriously. Ask that speakers address the board rather than the audience. Each speaker is given 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Wayne Coe. I'm here to talk about my school taxes being used to murder children, blow up schools in Palestine, through this board and other New York State boards. This fine young man here has been asking a lot of great questions, and I hope he continues to ask them and doesn't take your answers of no disinformation to heart. Keep asking those good questions. Who's the superintendent?
I am.
Great. Her salary is, well, let's just say 200 grand.
Sir, we can't talk about personnel matters here, sir.
I'm not talking about personnel matters. I'm talking about what people get paid. So I'm allowed to talk about what, that's a free and open thing for public employees. The teachers are paid around 80 grand average with benefits putting them at 105,000. And this is a school system that has 72% under, poor people. The imbalance is important. Where does the money go? 40 grand approximately is being spent on every student in this school. Well, about a third of it goes to banks, insurance companies, and Wall Street, which this superintendent represents. That's why she gets paid the big bucks. A little less than, about 9% goes to Wall Street. It goes to Boeing and Raytheon and Lockheed Martin that makes the jets that are killing children. Blowing their little brown bodies to bits for the benefits of the employees of the school. And so I'm here to say, you guys should divest. You guys should have divestment meetings, and I am making myself available to you. I've given you a card. Give me 10 minutes with audio visual to talk about the issues that are important, which is why are we investing money in cluster munition manufacturer Textron Inc.? Why are we investing money in Israel Discount Bank when they have killed, according to the Lancet, the British Journal, 200,000, not 100,000, at least 200,000 citizens of Palestine? These are the big questions. Why are my school taxes making kids die? And why is this school board, each individual one of you, backing a system that would murder so many people of color. It troubles me. And my family are indigenous. So I am connected historically to genocide and erasure. And part of the erasure process is this board not acknowledging and not coming forward and talking about how they are financing this genocide just like the United States. This is mine, because my school taxes are being used to finance it. This is my personal genocide erasure, and I resent it. So please put divestment on your calendar and inform the public on how easy it is to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Tracy, was that it?
There's a Joseph, your last name? Could you spell that?
Oleja.
Okay.
Great. Hi, my name is Joseph Olejak. I'm from the Old Chatham Quaker Meeting. Those of you who are not familiar with the Quaker Meeting, we're been a peace church since about 1640. And I'm here also to talk about divestment because many of the financial aspects of how war is funded is through investments, lots of different kinds of investments. And the New York State Teachers Retirement Fund does invest the money to pay retirement for teachers, and a lot of that money does go to companies like Raytheon and Boeing, and they make implements of war. And there's ways to invest money and be more socially responsible. And Quakers, of course, have been leading this charge for a long time. I just feel as though, given what's happening in Gaza and also in Ukraine, now is really the time to stand up and say a little bit more about what's going on, because it's, the carnage is, as you know, horrific. And we can do better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And just some things that have been happening across the district. So tonight, my superintendent's report is focusing on a few areas. So speaking of harvest of the month was New York Dairy. And the harvest for the month was on New York Dairy. So on the 13th of November, the food service served Upstate Farms assorted flavored yogurt cups at MCSES and Upstate Farms yogurt parfaits in the junior high and the senior high. Breakfast at the junior senior high also included fresh fruit and New York State yogurt bars. The New York State milk is from Sinai Farms. And so the farm to table class participated in the harvest of the month by having a yogurt making class led by our own school food director, Lisa McGovern. So conversations with the superintendent was held, and so I continue to engage the community each month as part of my conversations with the superintendent forums. So on November 14th, this session was attended, which I was very happy about, by several students. So we had a robust discussion about student behavior standards, busing, educational tracks for entering careers in politics and law, and then the evolution of the Blue Hawk Academy's mission. So the next conversation with the superintendent is December 19th at the Hudson Youth Center, which is on 8 South 3rd Street. I also have the conversations with the superintendent with staff members too. So that it's not only with the community, but there's also a time for staff members in the mornings, once a month. He's a resilience educator, so he has a PhD in social psychology and specializes in teaching on how youth can be more emotionally resilient. And on Wednesday, the 13th, the district was honored to host Brooks Gifts. He spoke at all 3 schools, and then that evening he had a session for the staff, faculty, and community. And I think Mr. McElroy, you attended that. And our president, Ms. Jones, was also there. There was an appreciation and thanking for our veterans. So the Kindness Club at the high school, which is directed by Ms. Smith, teamed up with High and Mighty Therapeutic Writing Center and the Columbia County Veterans Service Agency, Dwyer Peer-to-Peer Program to bring the 4th annual Veterans Appreciation Bagels and the Barn. So the event included music from the Hudson Wind Ensemble tours and gifts from life skills students, bagels, coffees, and fruit, and Mr. Lance Mueller's Video Photo Club cover event. And then there was the Hudson Senior High School Band gave a fantastic performance on the Veterans Day on November 11th. So we've launched the Flying Classroom. So the Flying Classroom is where there's a group of Hudson junior and senior high school students. They're receiving hands-on science, technology, engineering, and math lessons through the new Flying Classroom Saturday STEM pilot program, which was successfully launched on October 26, 2024. Slots are available for additional students to participate for the remainder of the school year. So be sure to contact the building principals, and they have all the information about that. And as I mentioned about a month ago, I was beginning a superintendent spotlight on excellence. And so a spotlight on excellence can be given to any community member, it can be given to a staff member, students, etc. So, and anyone can give a spotlight on excellence, to include the board, staff members. So this week, well, the very first spotlight on excellence will be given to Berkshire Bike and Board. And the recipients are Noah Kornblum and Victor Sperano. So why they're receiving this? Because these great community partners, when we received our bike grant, where we received the bikes for the junior high school, Mr. Sperano and Mr. Kornblum assembled those bikes for us. And so tonight we are thanking them and spotlighting them and Spotlight on Excellence, and I have a Spotlight on Excellence award for both of you guys. So first, it'll be Mr. Sperano. Come up and the board in our school district, we just want to spotlight your excellence for helping.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And also Mr. Noah Kornblum. This completes my superintendent report.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you both for being here.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve consensus agenda items A through K.
Seconds.
All in favor? New business.
These are all NISBA recommended and required policies. The changes should be all outlined in red, so easy to see what's changed on these. I didn't have any feedback other than we're still trying to, the policy 0115 calls for a bullying prevention, a task force on bullying prevention, and we're just confirming what exists in the different buildings and seeing if we need to modify language so that it reflects what our teams actually look like. But other than that, we wanted to get feedback from the rest of the board and move them to adopt at our next board meeting. Cool. So yeah, take a look and send along any questions.
Okay. No question? Good. Okay. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, important dates. December 10th, 2024, Board of Education meeting, high school library, 6 p.m. January 7th, 2025, Board of Education meeting, high school auditorium at 6 p.m. January 21st, 2025, Policy Committee meeting, high school library, 5 p.m. January 21st, 2025, Board of Education meeting, high school auditorium at 6 p.m. Okay, at this time, we do have a need for executive session. Be it resolved, the Board of Education enter executive session at 8:22 for the purpose of collaborative negotiations pursuant in Article 14 of the Civil Service Law and to review the employment history of particular persons or persons.
Second. All in favor? Great.
The
No.
meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, there'll be no further business after this session. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.